Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Speaking English podcast. Today we have a really exciting topic, how to start thinking in English. This is a perfect episode if you find yourself always translating from your native language to English. Do you ever think in Arabic and then try to translate your thoughts into English? If so, don't worry. Today we'll learn together how to start thinking in English directly.
Yes, learning English isn't just about learning words and grammar, but also how your mind interacts with the language. Sometimes, when we start learning, we think we have to translate every word. But if you want to speak fluently, you need to start thinking in English directly.
Exactly. In this episode, we'll share effective strategies to start thinking in English in your daily life and how you can improve your fluency with these simple but effective steps. We'll cover all the practical aspects of this process. So, let's dive in. The first step we'll talk about is thinking in simple words. At the beginning, this may seem a bit hard, especially if you're used to translating, but it all starts with very simple words. How can you apply this in your daily life?
Well, let's take examples from our daily lives. When you wake up in the morning, instead of saying in your mind, "I want to go to the kitchen," try saying, "I want to go to the kitchen." Try to think about the simple things you do throughout the day in English.
Exactly. For example, if you're leaving the house, instead of thinking, "I'm leaving the house," try thinking, "I am leaving the house." When you get used to this habit, you'll start naturally integrating the language into your life.
And the surprising thing is, these simple words can automatically evolve into more complex sentences over time. For instance, next time you think "I want to go to the kitchen," you might start thinking, "I am going to make breakfast," or "I need a cup of coffee." Gradually you'll start connecting words with activities you do.
Yes, and the idea here is to start thinking in English about the things you do every day. This will help you improve your ability to think in English in the future. You'll notice that the more you do this, the smoother the thoughts become.
The next step is stop translating. This is one of the most common mistakes we all make. We start learning new words, but our minds are used to translating, which leads to slower thinking.
Right? Let's take a simple example. If you want to say, "I want to drink water," in English, you should think directly, "I want to drink water," instead of first thinking "I" and then "want" and translating it into English.
Translation is not only a waste of time, but it also limits your ability to communicate quickly. When we translate all the time, the sentences sound unnatural. The idea is to train your brain to think in English directly, and this will make the process faster and more natural.
And I know this is a hard step, but with practice, you'll notice that you're translating less and less. The key is to get used to stopping thinking in Arabic and start thinking directly in English. The next step that can help is exposure to English continuously. There's no better way to get used to the language than to listen to it and see it in different contexts. When you're surrounded by English all the time, your brain will gradually switch to thinking in English.
Exactly. One of the things I always recommend is listening to podcasts in English or watching movies and TV shows in English. You can even watch shows you like, but with English subtitles or no subtitles at all.
Yes, since your brain is constantly picking up the words naturally when you're immersed in them, this helps build a strong linguistic foundation. Similarly, if you're listening to new words and phrases in contexts you understand, it will be easier to start thinking these words at the right time.
Listening to the language is similar to learning anything else. The more you're exposed to it, the more comfortable you become using it.
And the next step is talking to yourself in English. This might sound strange to some, but when you talk to yourself in English, you're creating an environment that simulates talking to others.
Yes, this is one of the best methods anyone can use. If you're at home, you can say to yourself, "I am washing the dishes," or "I am making dinner." These small conversations with yourself can be very helpful, especially if you don't have someone else to talk to.
Exactly. And the more you interact with the language this way, the more comfortable you'll feel using it. It's not a problem if you make mistakes, or if the sentences aren't perfect. What's important is having the courage to try.
Another point is changing your environment. How can English become part of your daily environment?
If you change your phone settings to English, you're constantly surrounding yourself with new words. And when you read the news, try to find news articles in English or follow social media accounts in English. If you're watching videos, choose educational content in English or even videos about topics you like.
Yes, this boosts your ability to immerse yourself in the language. And if you use English subtitles, it helps you connect the word with its meaning.
Finally, Be patient with yourself. This is a key element in the process. Learning a language takes time. Don't expect to think in English in one day, and don't feel discouraged if it doesn't happen quickly.
Remember, every small step brings you closer to your goal. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your own progress. In the end, you'll be able to think in English naturally.
Before we end, let's take a moment to review some of the vocabulary we used today. In this section, we'll break down some of the key words from the episode.
Let's start with the word exposure. This word means being surrounded by or interacting with something continuously. For example, exposing yourself to English means listening, reading, and living with the language in your daily life. Next, we have the word translation. This is the process of transferring the meaning of words from one language to another. When we constantly translate, we lose the direct connection with the meaning and slow down the process. Now, let's move to fluency. Fluency means the ability to speak smoothly and without hesitation. If you are fluent in a language, you can express your thoughts quickly and without much thought. Finally, we have confidence. Confidence means having trust in your abilities. When you speak to yourself in English, you build your confidence in your ability to communicate with others.
Of course, I'm sure everyone is starting to feel like they can think in English now.
Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. See you in the next episode.